We the people are also doling out 172 billion of our hard-earned dollars to pay for the treatment of completely preventable diet-related cardiovascular diseases. That's according to a new study by the Union for Concerned Scientists, and those costs don't take into account the additional billions in taxpayer money that are spent every year to subsidize America's out-of-whack food system that promotes junk foods and too much meat. Right now, we're paying twice for a food system that not only puts our nation deeper and deeper into debt, but also makes us sick. So how do we stop paying for foods that are killing us and start investing in healthier foods that could lead to a healthier economy? Joining me now for more on that is Jeffrey O'Hara, agricultural economist with the Union of Concerned Scientists Food and Environment Program. Jeffrey, welcome to the program.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So what is the leading cause of death in the United States?
The leading cause of death in the U.S. is cardiovascular disease. And the reason we're here talking about it on tax day to invoke something that Ben Franklin once said, our country's first our scientist, is that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And really it's the case that cardiovascular disease can be treated or mitigated by healthy diets. And unfortunately, our farm policy does exactly the opposite. There's a large disconnect between healthy foods that should appear on the plates for people at a meal versus the types of crops that are being grown in the farmland. And it's not by accident. The government policy is actually providing incentives for the wrong types of crops and ones that are not meeting healthy diets and healthful recommendations.
And why are we doing that?
It's an antiquated system that's out of date. Right now, Americans are only eating about half of the fruits and vegetables that they're supposed to be. And many people that want to make healthful choices don't have the resources or the ability to do so. And it would be a beneficial use of farm policy to help, give people those opportunities. Right now, taxpayers are spending $172 billion on cardiovascular diseases for Medicare and Medicaid, costs that are going to increase in the future as the baby boom generation ages.
Now, cardiovascular is not just heart attacks. It strokes.
Yep.
Right down to leg cramps and things like these. These are signs of a cardiovascular system that's starting to crash. I mean, aren't there? There's a whole spectrum of things that have to, vascular, the veins, right, that have to do with this. What are the things that people? I mean, where should we be directing our attention, our energies, if we want to do something about this?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to argue is that right now our farm policy has been hijacked. If Ben Franklin was alive today and saw what was going on, he'd be really offended.
He'd be writing about it in his newspaper.
He'd be writing about it in his newspaper because he said, nothing is certain but death and taxes. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to do is to make the case that the American public needs to see the connections between why they should care about farm policy, why they go to the grocery store and they see food products on the shelf. Those prices don't just mysteriously appear out of nowhere. There's actually government policies that help dictate the prices of food that are available and the policies behind their availability.
There's a relationship here, too, to food deserts, is there not? The large areas of the United States where there's plenty of food stores, but in them you can't find food that will not put you at risk for these kind of deaths. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's a lot of disparities right now in the U.S. We don't see equal opportunities for people to make healthy choices. And that's why we think it's important for policy to help improve the access, improve education, improve affordability of the types of foods that people need.
And the specific policies, to get right down to it, you're talking about what? Too much processed food, too much sugar, too much meat? Is that too many animal products in our diet?
But I think it's important to note that government policies are providing subsidies on the orders of billions of dollars a year for animal feed and to grow the types of crops that are used for that purpose, whereas fruit and vegetable production is restricted, completely at odds with what our healthy plate and what our dietary guidelines would suggest.
And just a few weeks ago, I saw a piece in the New York Times that was, basically suggesting that while we've always thought that sugar and high fructose corn syrup and things were an obesity problem, that they're also a cancer and cardiovascular problem. Is that the case? Is that consistent with your research?
Yeah, that's right. There's numerous chronic diseases that are caused by poor diet, cardiovascular disease and diabetes being among them. But for sure, as we see right now, the trends right now in the U.S. are impacting youth, they're impacting children, they're impacting people that don't have the resources or ability to make healthful choices, and that's why we argue policy is important.
I've heard that since Michelle Obama has been really preaching on this for the last couple of years, that we've started to move in the right direction, at least in our schools. Is there a trend in the right direction?
Yeah, so it's absolutely fabulous what the administration has done, which is to elevate the profile of this particular epidemic. I think our only message is that, it's not just about exercise, which has been an important component of their, of their messaging, but it's also about policy reform.